by reviewing this book and how it's inspired me tremendously in the last 7 years, 8 years to do things the way I'm doing on it. We'll use some instances and how I could relate to this book far more than what I thought I would. The first interesting point in this book was he's actually analyzed the risky business of going against the grain. And that's what I believe that my unique character was. So if my mom says, "Aise mat baithna, aise baithna," like, why? You know, I question the known grain of anything that happens at home. Or I've been called in the principal's room because I didn't finish the homework. Because I said I didn't feel like I found the homework dumb. I didn't want to do it. You know, you can't give 100 max problems to solve overnight. That's stupid. You know, I've had these conversations with my teachers and I've been called to principal room enough. But I never got my parents to know that. That's originality. Same way, how many of you all of us use web browsers today. So I'm a hardcore Chrome user and my husband's a Safari user. And the book says that people who actually don't go for default settings, Internet Explorer and Safari are typically default to your computers, right? Whether you have a Microsoft led laptop or an Apple led laptop. He says that these are default settings, and people who question the default, and a Chrome user or a Firefox user is actually probing into the default and downloading something else and experimenting with it. Now, my husband had a reverse argument to it, that he actually downloaded all these, didn't like, and that's why he went back to Safari because he's a hardcore Apple fan. So we believe that we are originals in that sense because I also explored Firefox. I was on Firefox for a very long time till they had an upgrade and then it started crashing so much. So in reality, not many were using Firefox because it's kind of died in its own ecosystem and it's not as popular as it used to be, and Chrome has taken it over along with Safari. But he essentially says that originals are people who question what is a norm. And a habit that is very important for anybody who wants to be an original person. The other beautiful point, this whole cycle where people are doing the same thing over and over again. I've done this before. I don't have a memory, but my everyday life is the same, right? And then next day is the same. I meet the same people, eat the same food. That's called deja vu. You know, I remember like this, I've gone somewhere and I've seen the same sari somewhere. I've met her before, Vani with deja vu. Now the opposite of deja vu is vujade, which I love this word. When I first heard it almost 8-9 years back was in a creativity workshop. It was actually so impactful in my life, and I saw this coming up again in this book, which was gaining new insights to old problems, which means there is a path like this, which is any Tambram girl you would have met has to do a CA or be a banker, have an arranged marriage, you know, go for the Singapore, US. This is the norm. Here is one who's never topped in school, college, did MBA to just run away from home. So it's just done being with my parents. Met a Rajasthani, married one, got a kid, which is quite a bit because he has a lot of Vuja Day moments with him. Mama, आपने आज ये pajama क्यों पहना? Because दूसरा wash के लिए गया है, क्या करूं? Mama, आप मुझे yes बोलोगे कि ना बोलोगे? I'm like, what is the question? So I have a lot of Vuja Day moments in real life, but I think as a professional, as about running a company or as about dealing with people, which I'm very passionate about, finding those Vuja Day moments and different routes for different problems, challenges, opportunities, and how we open that up becomes very interesting for me. I mean, Vuja Day has been a motto for me now for almost 8-9 years, where I look at a thing and I say, okay, how can I address it differently? So one victim is my husband, the other is my kid, and the third is my parents, who have to deal with me practicing that with them all the time. And then I deploy it back in office, so that the office, it looks like, oh, she knows it all. But the reality is I'm practicing it in day-to-day life as well, saying, how do I look at something quite differently than what maybe it's done in the past? And the book also says about originals are such people who look at new insights into old problems. He's talking about prisoners of prototypes and parochial preferences. I'm a big movie buff and TV buff. Like if I ever don't work or I'm just going to be at home ever, it'll just be me watching TV 24/7. I mean, I can do that. I've done my entire childhood like that, so I can do that in my next phase also. But the interesting bit is he actually talks about programs like Seinfeld or Lord of the Rings movie, which never took off, which was rejected. Because there is a prototype thinking that They tested with an audience, and people in marketing and advertising know this so well, that you do creative testing, it bombs, and then you release the ad out of sheer gut, and it's a success. It's like that. This show never saw the light of the day because they felt that it just doesn't fit in the current scheme of things, the way programming was at that point. It took one producer who was not from a comedy programming genre to actually pick up Seinfeld and put it on a primetime show and make it run. I mean, Seinfeld, still we watch it. Like, we love watching Seinfeld. If you look back into India, Balaji Telefilms is a classic example where Ekta Kapoor went door to door to sell Hum Panch. So Hum Panch was a very popular serial about father, wife, and husband, wife, and 5 daughters. It was such a big hit, but she struggled to sell it. Finally, Zee bought it, and Zee put it on as a primetime show. Today, they are talking about reviving that again. Sholay movie, Lagan, Ashutosh Gawrekar went to Amir Khan with the script. He rejected it. He said, no, I don't think it's sitting in well. Go back, write it again. Some 3 times he went back and forth before he agreed for Lagan. So there are such prototypes that we think, and we get trapped into it. Again, Tambram girl, can't be creative. We have to do maths, CA, or engineering. But so the prototypes work very well, right? Like my mom keeps telling my husband, Marwadi chai piyega? And he's like, पर मैं तो मारवाड़ी नहीं हूँ मैं तो राजस्थानी हूँ पर मारवाड़ी नहीं हूँ. Prototypes are at play all the time. How do we break those prototypes? How do we go with little more of a grain? Again, you step out, you get a Vuja Day moment, you then come back. So that's how you break the prototypes. This one I love. Like, remember I said I was a daydreamer, I could stare at walls for hours. Procrastination. I was famous for that. The reason I didn't get great numbers was not because I was dumb, but just procrastination of taking a book and studying. This book says it's good. This book says procrastinators is a very important trait because you pause and think a lot. All the procrastinators out here, please, of course, act upon it later, because if you don't act upon it, then it's lost. It's about fools rushing and saying, I saw an opportunity, let me just jump into it. And most of, at least the advertising world that I come from in India, we just rush in. We just don't pause, reflect, think, and say, okay, how am I going to approach this client? Can I buy time? Can I take my time? Can I think about this solution? The timelines are in a rush, and but we're not doctors. We're not in the business of saving lives. I know there are a lot of marketing guys here, but yeah, there's a neutral put. But we're not in the business of saving lives. We're selling products. So in advertising, I think that big thing that I learned was not to rush in, and I don't. I use my procrastination strength to give it little time, daydream, use my travel to think through it, and then go back with a thought. And many times I confess that I am not comfortable with what I'm presenting, but you want us to give it in such a short time, but ideally I would like to take another week, 10 days, whatever is permissible at that point of time. So many times, the last minute pressure gives us that, aha, I got that idea. I got that thing that I want to solve it. And that's where the procrastination helps, because it gives you a lot of pressure last minute to think creatively, get the deja vu out of you. Some of it coming to action the more you practice it in life. Ones that I practice, because I will practice what I preach, so that's why this book came into being, is trying to be different and better. Oh, thoda extra tadka har cheez mein dal sakti hu kya? That's my life motto. I am a quick starter, so I should have become an accountant, but I know maths very well. I know statistics well. I learned it at this recent past. I'm learning to be a coach. So I'm learning a lot, but I'm also a slow thinker. I don't now rush in, because earlier my habit was to rush in everything. So I take time to move into the next step. I question the defaults, because that's my job as a CEO. I have to question defaults, otherwise it's not healthy for the organization, but the right kind of questions. And moved away from deja vu to Vuja Day. I think Vuja Day is the primary thing that motivated me to read this book and come around.